Dr. Minnie Kim sat in her chaotic office at Seoul National University, surrounded by teetering piles of quantum physics journals and a graveyard of forgotten coffee cups. She rubbed her temples, squinting at the intricate formulas that had consumed her attention for 3 relentless days. Without warning, her computer screen flickered, and a glowing, rotating emblem appeared out of nowhere. "What in the world?" she murmured, her brow furrowing as she clicked on the strange icon. A holographic figure instantly materialized before her, a tall, azure-skinned alien with radiant, otherworldly eyes. "Greetings, Dr. Kim. I am a representative of the Council for the Intergalactic University of Zenta," the being announced in a calm, melodic tone. Minnie froze, her mouth hanging open in disbelief. "Is this a prank?" she managed to say, her voice laced with suspicion. "This is no jest," the alien replied, unflinching. "Your groundbreaking research on quantum entanglement has captured the attention of scholars across the cosmos. We would like to formally invite you to present at our forthcoming symposium." Her head spun as she struggled to grasp the bizarre situation. "A symposium? In space? You've got to be joking." The alien tilted its head slightly, studying her reaction. "We fail to understand Earth humor. Have we made an error?" Minnie let out an incredulous laugh, her sarcasm bubbling to the surface. "Oh no, everything's perfect. Just another typical day with aliens dropping into my office," she quipped. "Splendid," the alien said, entirely earnest. The hologram blinked out of existence as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving Minnie staring at the now vacant space. She sighed heavily. "I'm going to need an absurd amount of coffee for this." 7 days later, she found herself aboard an alien starship, sleek, elegant, and brimming with technology that seemed to defy every scientific principle she'd ever learned. As she took in her surroundings, an attendant approached and handed her a tiny device. "This will serve as your universal translator," he said. She slipped it into her ear. "Testing 1, 2, 3, she said tentatively. A cheerful voice responded. "Greetings." Her face lit up. "Okay, now that's impressive." Navigating the spacecraft, however, proved to be an entirely different ordeal. The glowing signs on the walls shifted and morphed every time she tried to read them. "How does anyone get around on this thing?" she muttered, exasperated. An alien walking past paused, noticing her struggle. "Quantum signage confusing you?" he asked, amused. "Let's just say it's not what I'm used to," she replied. With a touch to a nearby panel, the symbols rearranged themselves into clear English. "There, that should help," he said with a friendly nod. She smiled in relief. "Thanks. I was starting to think I'd need a trail of breadcrumbs to survive here." When she finally reached her assigned quarters, her jaw dropped. The furnishings adjusted to her movements as if reading her mind. She hesitantly lowered herself into a chair, which instantly reshaped itself to fit her perfectly. "Now this is something I could get used to," she murmured, leaning back in comfort. The next morning, Minnie made her way to the grand auditorium of the University of Zenta. The towering structure seemed to defy gravity, its spires spiraling endlessly into the sky. The shimmering arches framing the entrance flickered in and out of dimensions, as if existing in multiple realities at once. "Well," she whispered to herself, awestruck, "this is definitely not Kansas anymore." She drew a deep breath to steady herself. "All right, Minnie, it's time to make your mark," she whispered. Entering the hall, she was met with the gaze of hundreds of alien academics, their eyes, or whatever senses they used, fixed upon her. A prominent alien with shimmering silver scales approached. "Dr. Kim, we have been eagerly anticipating your arrival," he greeted warmly. "Thank you, although I must admit, it's a bit overwhelming," she replied honestly. He gestured toward a central platform. "Before your lecture, we wish to present you with a challenge, a problem that has eluded us for a millennium." She raised an eyebrow in surprise. "A 1,000-year-old puzzle? No pressure, then," she joked. The alien looked momentarily puzzled. "Is that what you humans call sarcasm?" he asked. "Yes, it is," she confirmed with a nod. Unfazed, he continued, "We hope your fresh perspective will shed light where we have found none." She glanced at the intricate holographic equations floating above the platform. The symbols were unfamiliar yet strangely intuitive. "Well, I've always enjoyed a good challenge," she said with a hint of excitement. As she ascended the platform, whispers rippled through the audience. She could feel their eyes upon her, filled with skepticism but also a flicker of hope. Standing before the enigmatic display, she took another deep breath. All right, let's see what we're dealing with here, she murmured. Dr. Minnie Kim stood before the swirling holographic symbols, her eyes scanning over characters that defied earthly understanding. Yet, amidst the complexity, she sensed a familiar pattern. This feels like trying to read a book while skydiving, she muttered to herself. An alien professor with iridescent scales stepped forward. Dr. Kim, this is the enigma of infinite energy. For 1,000 years, we have sought to harness limitless energy from the quantum vacuum without violating the laws of physics, he explained. She lifted an eyebrow. Limitless energy? You're not serious, are you? He tilted his head slightly, indicating sincerity. We take this subject very seriously, the alien declared firmly. She chuckled softly. Well, back on Earth, we have a saying, you don't get something for nothing. The professor looked confused. We are not discussing sustenance. Exactly, she replied with a smile. You're trying to extract limitless energy from the vacuum. Have you thought about how this clashes with the second law of thermodynamics? Silence enveloped the auditorium as whispers spread among the alien scholars. Another professor stepped forward. Our theories surpass such rudimentary laws. Minnie burst into laughter. Rudimentary? That's amusing. You can't simply ignore entropy because it's inconvenient. She tapped on the holographic interface, bringing up equations she recognized. Look here, you're neglecting the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You can't precisely know both the position and momentum of particles in the quantum vacuum. Attempting to extract energy disrupts this balance. An alien voice shouted from the back, but our calculations indicate the potential for infinite output, and my calculations show that if I eat endless pizzas, I'll be infinitely full, she retorted. Doesn't make it possible. A few aliens exchanged puzzled glances. She sighed. Let me put it this way. You're trying to withdraw funds from a bank account that doesn't exist. The feathered professor blinked in astonishment. Such establishments as you described do not exist among us, the alien responded. Under her breath, she muttered, the calculations. Look, she said firmly, the conservation of energy is a fundamental law. You can't produce energy from nothing without repercussions. Have you ever heard of vacuum decay? A murmur of gasps spread through the hall. An elder professor whispered, she mentions the great unraveling. Precisely, unraveling your universe like a worn-out fabric, Minnie exclaimed. If you meddle too much with the quantum vacuum, you risk initiating a catastrophic event that could obliterate everything, she warned. The chief professor stepped forward, his voice unsteady. Is this truly possible? She nodded solemnly. Unfortunately, yes. On Earth, we've theorized about such perils. That's why we avoid tampering with vacuum energy as if it's child's play. Child's play? An alien asked inquisitively. Never mind, she waved off the comment. The essential point is that you're dealing with something extremely hazardous, intergalactic, all-consuming danger. A profound silence settled over the room. Then, a spark ignited in Minnie's eyes. But all is not lost. There are safer methods to generate energy. Have you considered harnessing stellar radiation or zero-point fluctuations within controlled settings? The feathered professor leaned in eagerly. Please elaborate, she smiled. Now we're on the same page. Let's take another look at your equations. For the following hours, she dedicated herself to refining their models and introducing concepts from human physics. The aliens watched in awe as she navigated complex theories with ease. At one point, she took a thoughtful pause. I could really use a cup of coffee. Do you have anything that won't make my taste buds regret it? She inquired. They offered her a steaming cup filled with a strange, glowing liquid. She sipped it and nearly spat it out. Whoa, that tastes like liquid sunshine, and not in a good way, she exclaimed. A few aliens chuckled. Apparently, humor was universal after all. Turning back to the equations, she concluded her presentation. So, to sum it up, while extracting infinite energy is impossible, you can achieve sustainable power by respecting quantum boundaries, she explained. The head professor examined her work, his eyes widening, literally extending from their sockets. This is astonishing, he murmured. She waved it off modestly. Oh, it was nothing, just a bit of earthly ingenuity, she said. Excited chatter erupted among the professors as they debated and gestured animatedly. Finally, the head professor addressed her. Dr. Kim, you have solved what we could not in a millennium. We are humbled by your insight. She laughed softly. Well, sometimes it takes a fresh pair of eyes, or in my case, a human who's had way too much bad coffee, she joked. They all looked at her, puzzled. She sighed. We really need to work on our cross-cultural jokes. Dr. Minnie Kim stretched her arms, feeling a mix of exhaustion and excitement. Well, that was a productive session, she declared, noticing the bewildered expressions on the alien professors' faces. One of them, a tall being with glowing tentacles named Professor Zorit, approached her. Dr. Kim, your insights are truly groundbreaking, but if harnessing infinite energy is unattainable, how do your people meet your energy requirements? Professor Zorit asked. She flashed a grin. We don't try to cheat the universe's laws. Instead, we rely on sustainable sources, solar power, wind energy, even nuclear fusion. Have you thought about tapping into the energy of your own stars? Professor Zorit blinked, or did the equivalent with his 3 eyelids. Our stars? But stellar energy seems so ordinary. Ordinary? That's like calling the Grand Canyon just a hole in the ground. She chuckled. Trust me, there's plenty of power to harness without ripping apart the fabric of reality. Another professor spoke up, his voice resonating like a finely tuned instrument. But our calculations indicate that stellar energy is insufficient for our intergalactic demands. Minnie tapped her chin thoughtfully. Have you considered using Dyson swarms? They exchanged confused looks. Dyson swarms? Yes. Constructing massive arrays of energy collectors around a star to capture its total power output. Think of it as supercharging a solar panel. Professor Zorit's tentacles quivered with excitement. Incredible. We had dismissed such concepts as impractical. She shrugged lightly. Sometimes the best solutions are right under our noses, or whatever you use to sense smells. A ripple of what she hoped was laughter passed through the group. Feeling encouraged, she continued. You see, the universe operates under certain laws. You can't defy the fundamental laws just because you desire limitless power, she cautioned. It's like trying to beat a casino in Las Vegas. The odds are definitely not in your favor. Las Vegas? An alien asked, puzzled. She chuckled. Oh boy, remind me to bring you to Earth someday. We'll visit the casinos and you'll get what I mean. Professor Zorblat's eyes shimmered with interest. Your Earth sounds intriguing. It has its moments, she winked. Now back to business. If we refine your current technology using these new parameters, you can achieve efficient energy use without risking, the total annihilation of the universe. They nodded eagerly, absorbing every word. She felt a surge of pride. Who would have thought I'd be teaching advanced physics to aliens today? Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the auditorium. Red lights flashed, and a voice echoed. Quantum destabilization detected. Her eyes widened. What did you guys touch? The feathered professor looked embarrassed. We might have left the infinite energy apparatus running. Are you kidding me? Shut it down. Right now, she exclaimed. They scrambled toward the control panel, but the alien symbols were incomprehensible to her. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the crowd. Let me handle this. Her fingers flew over the controls, guided by intuition and a bit of luck. The alarms grew louder. Come on, think. It's just like overriding a system back home, she muttered. With a final keystroke, the alarms ceased. Silence filled the room. She released a deep sigh. That was uncomfortably close, she remarked. Professor Zorit gently placed a tentacle on her shoulder. You have saved us. We are in your debt, he said gratefully. She gave a sly smile. Just another day for an ordinary earthling, she replied. A sudden idea lit up her face. Perhaps it's time you appointed someone to oversee safety, someone to ensure you don't accidentally wipe out the universe. They exchanged thoughtful looks. An excellent proposal. Would you be interested in the position? One of them asked. She laughed heartily. Me? Oh no, I can barely keep my houseplants alive. Houseplants? The feathered professor queried. Never mind, she waved off the question. The important thing is that you need protocols and safety measures. For starters, maybe don't leave dangerous experiments running unattended. They all nodded in understanding. One of them began jotting down notes on a floating tablet. Establish safety protocols. Form oversight committee. Prevent universal destruction. She chuckled. Glad we're all on the same page. As calm returned, they resumed their discussions. Mindy shared Earth's collaborative approach to science. On our planet, we review each other's work to catch mistakes. Perhaps you should consider doing the same. Professor Zorit tilted his head. We have always worked independently within our own disciplines. Well, that explains a lot, she said pointedly. 2 minds are better than 1. Unless you're a Zodian, then I guess 3 minds are standard. They looked at her with blank expressions. She let out a sigh. Doesn't anyone anyone here read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? She asked. Silence filled the room. All right then, consider adding it to your reading list, she suggested. Despite the cultural differences, progress was being made. They began to see the value in her recommendations, not just in physics, but in their entire scientific approach. As the day drew to a close, Mindy felt a sense of accomplishment. Not too bad for a girl from Seoul, she mused to herself. Professor Zorit approached her once more. Dr. Kim, your contributions have been invaluable. Is there anything we can offer you in return? She thought for a moment. Well, now that you mention it, how about a decent cup of coffee? He gave what she assumed was a smile. We will attempt to replicate your Earth's coffee, he replied. Just make sure you don't create another black hole in the process, she joked. They shared a light-hearted moment, the barriers between their species beginning to fade. The next morning, Dr. Mindy Kim awoke to the gentle sound of soft chimes echoing in her quarters. She yawned. At least their alarm clocks are soothing, she thought. Remembering her commitment, she headed straight to the research lab to meet the alien professors. Upon entering, she was greeted by a flurry of activity. Holographic screens hovered everywhere, displaying new designs based on her suggestions. Professor Zorit waved her over excitedly. Dr. Kim, we've begun constructing a prototype of the Dyson swarm, he announced eagerly. She raised an eyebrow. Already? You certainly don't waste any time, she remarked. He nodded enthusiastically. Your ideas have inspired us beyond measure, he said. We have already implemented the safety measures you recommended, Professor Zorit informed her. She smiled. Glad to hear no one's accidentally pressing the universe's undo button today. They led her to a vast observation window. Outside, robotic units were constructing massive structures around a distant star. The scale was breathtaking. Wow, she whispered. You really hit the ground running. Professor Zorit looked perplexed. We did not have a ball, but we proceeded swiftly, she chuckled. It's a figure of speech. It means you acted quickly and effectively. He nodded in understanding. We are also adopting your concept of peer review. Our teams are collaborating for the first time. Better late than never, she grinned. Just then, an announcement echoed throughout the facility. Attention all personnel. Initial testing of the Dyson swarm will commence shortly. Mindy's eyes widened. Wait, you're testing it now? Yes, Professor Zorit confirmed. Would you like to observe? Absolutely. Lead the way. They moved to a control room bustling with aliens operating various interfaces. On a central screen, the Dyson swarm began to activate, panels unfolding like the petals of a colossal flower. Initiating energy capture, an operator announced. Data streams filled the displays as energy levels spiked. The room buzzed with excitement. Energy output is stable, another alien reported. Mindy watched in awe. I have to admit, this is impressive. Suddenly, a fluctuation appeared on one of the monitors. Unidentified variants detected, an operator said nervously. Her stomach dropped. Please tell me that's normal. Professor Zorit's tentacles twitched uneasily. It should not be occurring. Without hesitation, Mindy sprang into action. Bring up the energy readings on screen 3. They complied immediately. She began scanning the data intently. She let out a deep breath. That was uncomfortably close, she remarked. Professor Zorit gently placed a tentacle on her shoulder. You have saved us. We are in your debt, he said. She gave a sly smile. Just another day for an ordinary earthling, she replied. A sudden thought crossed her mind. Perhaps it's time you appointed a safety officer, someone to ensure you don't accidentally erase the universe. They exchanged thoughtful glances. An excellent proposal. Would you be interested in the position? One of them asked. She laughed heartily. Me? Oh no, I can barely keep my houseplants alive. Houseplants? The feathered professor queried. Never mind, she waved off the question. The important thing is that you need protocols and safety measures. Maybe start by not leaving dangerous experiments unattended. They all nodded in agreement. One of them jotted down notes on a floating tablet. Establish safety protocols. Form oversight committee. Prevent universal annihilation. She chuckled softly. Glad we're on the same page, she said. As things settled down, they resumed their discussions. Mindy introduced them to Earth's collaborative approach to science. Back home, we review each other's work to catch mistakes. Maybe you should try that. Professor Zorit tilted his head. We have always worked in isolated disciplines, he admitted. Well, that explains a lot, she remarked pointedly. 2 heads are better than 1, unless you're a Zodian. Then I suppose 3 heads are the norm. They stared at her blankly. As the spacecraft touched down softly on Earth, Dr. Mindy Kim stepped out into the familiar chaos of the spaceport. The aroma of jet fuel and the distant clamor of car horns felt strangely reassuring. Home sweet home, home, she murmured. Earlier, when she had mentioned getting gray hairs, Professor Zorit had looked concerned. We can arrange for hair pigmentation restoration if needed, he had offered earnestly. She had laughed warmly. It's just an expression. It means you're causing me stress, but it's worth it in the end. He had smiled, or at least made a gesture she interpreted as a smile. Your quick thinking has saved us yet again. Perhaps you might consider staying with us longer. She had hesitated, finding the offer tempting. As much as I'd love to keep preventing you from accidentally destroying yourselves, I have obligations back on Earth. Professor Zorit had nodded in understanding. We respect your duties. Your contributions have already transformed our society. Please promise you'll be careful. No more reckless experiments. We will strictly follow the safety protocols, he assured her. She had glanced around the room at the appreciative faces. You know, this has been one incredible adventure. Indeed, he agreed. You've taught us not just about physics, but also about collaboration and humility. She waved a hand dismissively. Oh, don't get all sentimental on me now. He tilted his head curiously. Sentimental? She chuckled softly. Emotional, a bit sappy. Ah, he replied thoughtfully. Now, back on Earth, she felt a mix of relief and nostalgia. The journey had been extraordinary, but there was comfort in the familiar sights and sounds of home. She released a heavy sigh. In that case, we'll hold back, she said. They shared a quiet moment of mutual understanding. Finally, she took a deep breath. Well, I guess it's time for me to start packing. Professor Zorblat extended one of his tentacles toward her. Before you depart, we've prepared something for you, he announced. If it's another one of those exotic drinks, I'll have to decline, she teased. He presented her with a compact device. This is a portable knowledge repository, a gift containing all of our scientific data. Her eyes widened in amazement. This is incredible. Thank you so much. Consider it a token of our gratitude, he replied. She smiled warmly. I'll cherish this. Maybe it will help bridge the gap between our worlds. As she made her way back to her quarters, a hint of melancholy washed over her. It's funny how a short trip can change so much, she mused. Back in her room, she began gathering her belongings. A notification flashed on her communicator. It was a message from her colleagues on Earth. Hope your lecture went well. Can't wait to hear all about it. She smirked. If only they knew, she thought wryly. A soft chime sounded at her door. Come in, she called out. An attendant stepped inside. Your transport is ready, Dr. Kim? She nodded. Thank you. I'll be there shortly. Taking one last look around the room, she picked up her bag and headed out. As she boarded the ship that would take her home, she reflected on the experiences she'd had. The crises averted and the friendships formed. Settling into her seat, she whispered to herself, not bad for a humble physicist from Earth. The engines hummed softly. As the stars blurred past the window, she closed her eyes with a satisfied smile. She managed a laugh. You know me, always on the hunt for the next adventure. Just make sure your adventures haven't made you forget about the symposium next week. The voice on the other end cautioned. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'll be there, she promised. After ending the call, she stared at the holographic data device. I can't just drop this on humanity like an episode of The Twilight Zone, she mused. She decided to introduce the knowledge gradually, weaving it into her research. Home sweet home, she sighed as she stepped off the spacecraft into the familiar bustle of the spaceport, taking a deep breath. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages from colleagues and friends. Where have you been? You missed the faculty meeting. Did you fall off the face of the earth? She chuckled to herself. If only they knew. Flagging down a taxi, she gave the driver her address. He glanced at her unusual attire, still wearing the sleek, iridescent suit the aliens had gifted her. Interesting fashion you've got there, he remarked. She grinned. You should see what's on the runways in Milan. He laughed. Fair enough. When she arrived at her apartment, she was greeted by a pile of mail and a drooping houseplant. Sorry, Fernando. I'll get you some water ASAP, she said to the plant. Fumbling with her keys, she finally unlocked the door and stepped inside, dropping her bags with a thud. First things first, she muttered. She placed the alien knowledge repository on her cluttered desk. The device emitted a soft hum and cast a gentle glow. Let's hope this doesn't fry my Wi-Fi, she joked. Her stomach growled, reminding her that she hadn't eaten. Time to order some takeout, she decided. As she glanced at her phone, a notification caught her eye. Unexplained lights spotted in the night sky. Man, I could really go for some Chinese takeout, she thought aloud. After placing her usual order, she She settled into her chair and eyed the enigmatic device on her desk. With a cautious touch, she activated it. Instantly, holographic images filled the room, star maps, complex equations, and technological schematics beyond her wildest imagination. Wow, this makes Star Trek look amateur, she marveled. The sudden ring of the doorbell jolted her. Hastily, she hid the holograms. Coming, she called out. Opening the door, she found the delivery person glancing curiously at the faint lights emanating from inside. Having a party? He asked, handing her the food. She winked. Just some light reading. Back at her desk, she dug into the meal. Nothing beats Earth food, she mumbled between bites. She scrolled through the alien data, medical breakthroughs, innovative energy solutions, environmental restoration techniques. It was overwhelming. This could change the world, she whispered. But then a sobering thought hit her. Or it could turn into a disastrous sci-fi scenario. She imagined governments clashing over the technology, corporations exploiting it. The humor faded from her face. Her phone rang. It was Professor Anderson from the university. She hesitated before answering. Hello, Mindy, you're back. We were starting to worry, he said. She forced a laugh. You know me, always chasing the next adventure. Well, I hope your adventures haven't made you forget about the symposium next week. Wouldn't miss it for anything. I'll be there, she assured him. After hanging up, she gazed at the holographic data. I can't just drop this on humanity like an episode of The Twilight Zone, she mused. She decided to introduce the knowledge gradually, integrating it subtly into her research and lectures. Just then, another news alert popped up on her phone. Mysterious lights spotted in the night sky. She incorporated the ideas she'd acquired from the aliens, presenting them as speculative theories. A ripple of amazement spread as she showcased equations that elegantly solved age-old problems. A hand shot up. Dr. Kim, this equation contradicts our existing models. How is that possible? She flashed a grin. Maybe it's time we revise those models. Another professor leaned in closer. Where did you discover this? She winked playfully. Oh, just something I picked up on my travels. After the lecture, a crowd swarmed around her. Some were skeptical, others brimmed with excitement. Your work is revolutionary, one student gushed. Just wait until the next lecture, she replied mysteriously. Strolling home that evening, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. By carefully introducing this knowledge, she could guide humanity toward a brighter future without causing chaotic upheaval. Her phone buzzed with a text from Professor Zorit, successfully brewed coffee. Sending a sample your way, she laughed out loud. Can't wait to taste some intergalactic Java. Gazing up at the stars, she took a deep breath. The universe was vast, filled with mysteries yet teeming with possibilities. Bring it on, she whispered. I'm just getting started.